Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brothers Take podcast. I'm Chris. I'm joined once again by my brothers, Adam
Hello.
and Eric.
Hello.
And we are back in the room to talk about another gaming adaptation, but not a video game adaptation, a tabletop game adaptation with a new Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. We all went to see it, and we're going to talk non-spoiler first. For those of you who haven't seen it, you can check out our non-spoiler review first. And then for those who have, they can stick around and we'll get into our full spoiler discussion of what we thought of the movie, what we liked about the movie, maybe what we didn't like about the movie, what we'd like to see maybe from future movies. And are there any other tabletop games out there that we think should be adapted into movies or for the big screen? But we'd love to hear from you guys too. If you guys have seen this movie, you watch this YouTube, down in the comments, share your thoughts. What did you think of it? And if you enjoyed this discussion, want to give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell for all future episodes. So those of you who are listeners on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on Dungeons and Dragons. Do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Do you have your own party? Let us know. Without further ado, let's roll our D20s, nerds. So, starting with our non-spoiler review for the movie. That's in the movie. Eric, you've seen it twice
I saw it twice. I
in
saw
a row, 2 nights in a row.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 2 nights in a row. Yeah.
Is that your non-spoiler review?
Yeah, that's my non-spoiler
I
review.
went to see it twice, so you should see it.
Well, I mean, if you like fantasy and or Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah, I'd say like give this a watch because it's very fantasy and it does very much have that kind of Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. The kind of ragtag team brought together to stop the big threat and fumbling their way through every situation. I think it's a fun movie. Don't go in expecting if this gets like fucking Oscars, I'd be very surprised.
Right? Yeah. I don't.
It's a great fun movie, but it's not The Godfather or Titanic or something.
No, of course. No. I don't think, and I don't think anyone is going in thinking that anyway. Like, I don't think anyone's holding it up on that kind of. There was one guy 2 rows in front of us, and this must be the best movie ever. Like, he was fucking loving it. I kind of wish I was in his headspace. Like, he was really having a great time with this movie. Yeah, I think what you've just said, Derek. Anyone who's asked me how was it when I said I went to see it, I say if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think you'll really enjoy this movie. It's in kind of a similar vein, similar energy, some similar humor. I think the movie is a little bit unbalanced in that sometimes the humor is funny, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the characters are like have really great character moments, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the CGI is good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the prosthetics are good, sometimes they're not. So it's kind of an unbalanced experience. Like there's puppets and stuff, and I was going, oh, that's rough, you know? And then you might see another puppet later on, and you're going, oh, that one's okay, actually. So it's like really like, it's like I appreciate seeing puppetry in a movie like this. But the level of quality of the puppetry, I don't know. I was like, were they running out of time on that one, or was there a different team did that one, or was this movie affected behind the scenes by something? I don't know. But kind of fun to see some of the different people in here. Quite fun to see Hugh Grant in a movie like this, I have to say, and in the role that he was doing. Thought he was quite fun, enjoyable to watch. Chris Pine, as always, very charming and fun to watch. Michelle Rodriguez surprised me, I have to say. And I think my favorite character was, she plays the druid, and she was in It.
Yes, Sophia Lillis. Is that her name? Sophia Lillis or Sophia
Lillis? Something like that, yeah. I thought she was great. And there's another guy, is his name Regé Jean Paul? What's his name? He
I don't
was
know, but he's in Bridgerton, and yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, he was great. I thought his
Yeah.
character was fantastic. But yeah, I think it's a fun. Yeah, like I said, it's a fun movie. But yes, don't go in expecting. Honestly, use out of you. I think you said before I went to see it that you were using like the old 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie as your like
benchmark.
marker.
Yeah.
And if that's your benchmark, this is a great movie. This is a really good,
how
fun
did it compare?
movie.
I don't think I asked you, Adam. How did it compare to the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie?
It is certainly way better than that. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
100%.
That is actually that's one of the worst films ever made, for sure. Like Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a better movie than the OG Dungeons and Dragons.
It's certainly more fun to watch.
Yeah, it is awful. Not only is it awful,
I fucking forgot. Jeremy Irons is in.
he is in
The
that.
two-
Yeah,
Dungeons
I was
and
actually because I was
Dragons.
looking up like reviews for kind of both, and I was looking up a bit of trivia. I've heard a 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie. They asked Jeremy Irons why he did it, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? I just bought a castle. I had to try and pay for it somehow."
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he own a castle?
I don't know
That's
anymore.
the
but-
most Dungeons and Dragons-esque bullshit ever. Like, I just bought a castle, so that's why I took this role. Like that. That's fucking nuts. But, yeah, Adam, what did you think of the movie?
I was very surprised by this film. I think when I saw the trailer, it looked like shit. If I'm going to be honest, it looked like nothing but shit. But coming out of the movie, I had a really good time with it, and the only time I ever came out of a film like that is maybe Avengers, the very first Avengers.
Wow.
I remember going to see that going, I can't see how this is going to work.
Sure.
I've seen the other movies. I don't know how they're going to make these all gel together. And I remember watching the first Avengers, and I wasn't enjoying like the setup, the beginning of it. I'm like, this isn't working for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there's this like kind of halfway point, and then from there on, it is just a joy. And I remember coming out of Avengers absolutely loving it.
And then there's the moment in Avengers, isn't there? It's quite an iconic moment at this point where they do the circle shot.
yeah, okay, the team kind of
And
comes
Alan
together.
Silvestri's theme, and it's like, okay, you got me. Okay.
Yeah, they
I'm
managed
in.
to
I'm
do
in for the ride.
the impossible, and with this movie, it's not that it's impossible to get it to work, like, but I totally, yeah, we're probably going to make a lot of comparisons to Guardians of the Galaxy and just Marvel movies in general, and I think that's unfortunate, actually. That's unfortunate because it's like I'm not a fan of Guardians, but I totally see there's obviously a comparison to be made here.
Yeah.
For me, it works more the humor that's being used here. I agree that there's some humor that just it doesn't work. It's not well done. It's not well utilized. Hard to know what that is, whether it's the editing, whether it's the dialogue, the way it's delivered, or if it is actually the writing. I don't know what's wrong there. But in most cases, the humor is really well performed, and most of it I think comes from either Chris Pine or Hugh Grant.
Oh, and some of it is
they're-
genuinely laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
Not just that little giggle you do to yourself, like, huh, that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like actually laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get and the same with I I know what you mean with the prosthetics. I was really surprised by the amount of prosthetics and sets
Same.
that are in this film.
Yeah, yeah.
And because for something like this, you kind of expect them to just go full on CGI.
Right. Like
But
they
they-
screen the whole thing, right?
But there's some of the prosthetics are not great,
No.
but
I'm
there's
looking at you, Jonathan.
There's a weird like he looks like a parade puppet, but there's like this weird like
Yeah, like I think he's about to like
Charm
open up
to it.
for like a football game.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Actually,
I don't want to give too much away there.
But
Yeah.
there's a charm to it that I just fucking loved. Like it just kind of.
Okay.
So I came away from this movie thinking this is Robin Hood Men in Tights. This is Princess Bride. Like
Right.
it's that type of movie. I know Hugh
Like
Grant was
it's campy, right?
yeah, Hugh Grant was comparing it to like a Monty Python movie. It's not satirical enough to be Monty Python,
No,
but there's an element of we're not taking this seriously, which is a bit Monty Python in a way. With some of the costumes, like we'll get into it, but there's some costumes in the backgrounds that are just so obviously it's just a shit tunic. Like it's kind of that kind of stuff is pretty funny. But this aesthetically, I was like, it didn't really feel like Dungeons and Dragons to me, but I think that's going to feel different to different people, different players. Like their visions of Dungeons and Dragons is going to be different.
Absolutely.
But the way the story unfolds,
feels
and the way
like
the
Dungeons and
people
Dragons.
interact with each other, and just the silliness of it,
Yeah.
does feel like Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. And like we'll get into the specifics in the spoiler part for those of you who have seen it. But I do think that the constant like trying to come up with a new plans don't always work. Will we try this? Yeah, let's try it. Oh crap, that didn't work either. Like if it felt like in the script there was an element of someone behind the scenes rolled the dice and went, no, that's a failure, so this scene has to fail. Even though we could move the story along a lot quicker if we let everything work. But but it wouldn't feel true to the whole the feeling of like a party trying things out and then also like it's like, right, you're in this like death trap scenario. How are you going to get out of it? Right, who has what tools? What can we do here to actually get out of the death trap? That there's a sequence that I think feels really like a one-shot D&D campaign nearly. Like being underground literally in a dungeon actually.
Yeah.
That part really feels like playing D&D. And then also, that the characters are kind of not all taking it seriously, like, you know what I mean? Like, you try to play D&D with someone, you have your lore master or whatever, like someone is trying to tell an incredibly deep, serious story.
Yeah.
And the guys are like, I'm into it, but I feel a little bit embarrassed. I'm a little bit shy. I also just, I want to maintain like an element of, I'm not that nerdy, So we're going to make lots of jokes to get around the awkwardness of, we're grown adults sitting around a table and playing make-believe right now. So, that's, anytime I play D&D anyway, like that's what happens. Like people making jokes the whole time.
when you have a party of people together, you are dealing with people who, even if they're embarrassed, maybe they're 3 drinks in, so they're drunk, or or it's just because they're playing a game, they're wanting to have fun.
Yeah, ultimately they just they're here. They're here for a good time.
Fun. Yeah. So there is moments, even like, I won't spoil it, but like there's a moment in the movie where they're just trying to do a really simple task, and they make a balls of it, so they end up having to try fucking do that thing like again and again and again, and they kind of like keep like messing up, or it keeps not going their way and everything, and that also feels sometimes like in D&D. You're like,
feels like they keep rolling the dice and it's just not working.
Like I think in Critical Role, they have, within their first campaign, they have this running joke of doors. They just can't seem to fucking open doors. So in the first season of The Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime, they incorporate that joke that they just can't fucking open doors. So like, when they are failing at like the most basic of tasks in the movie, it does feel very of how a campaign plays out. It's like you have the most epic, amazing plan, and then nope, never mind, you rolled a 2. You stepped on a rake.
I think as well, some of the like as fun and as funny as the movie is, I think some of the fight choreography is actually really solid. Like there's a couple of fight scenes that I think stood out as like genuinely like great choreography, and the music would ramp up, and I think Michelle Rodriguez gets A couple of really like her character gets a couple of really cool fight sequences that stood out to me as like genuinely really fun to watch. And,
Some of the I found some of the cinematography actually. There's one of the fight scenes they do this like kind of panning circle shot. I thought it was a really good fucking
and some of those some of those
Yeah.
cool nature shots, that were at moments Peter Jackson-esque,
Yeah.
Like when I saw stuff like that, I was like, that's fucking cool. Like, it looks great.
The fight scenes in this are fucking amazing.
Oh, I wasn't being nice enough, maybe.
That was the other, like I was like, okay, this is. I think the film has a poor start. I don't think it starts well. I think it's a bit slow to get into it. But there's the first fight scene. I was like, okay, this is actually, that's really well done. And there's a few things with fighting, right? Especially if you're not a martial arts movie. This isn't a martial arts movie.
No.
But there is good combat in it. There's a few fight scenes. It's not like this, it's not heavy on the fighting side. There's like a couple of them.
No.
But the few that are there,
driven.
the few that are there are really, really well done. But there's a couple of elements to a good fight scene, right? You've got obviously the choreography, so it's the dance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the person you're actually fighting, so the stunt team. And then there's the blocking of it, so that's how it's shot.
Yeah.
And we can look at like other existing examples, like Rings of Power, for example, where there's a couple of fight sequences in that, which the choreography is actually not bad, and the actors are really good at going out through the motion. But the stunt team are not committed to it, or at least they're like almost like waiting their turn.
Right.
And the blocking is terrible, so it's like sometimes you miss it. And another example is one I could never enjoy was Winter Soldier. The choreography is solid. Really great choreography. They don't know how to shoot that though. It's really choppy.
I found the same with Black Widow, because Scarlett Johansson does all of her own stunts. So I know that she's doing some really awesome stuff. But it's just like there's a fight scene she has in an apartment building, and it literally zooms up right on her like hip or something. I'm like, I'm getting the gist. She's grabbing that other person with her legs, but I haven't a clue because you're so close to her leg. Like it's just it's that jump cut thing.
I feel like
so many times.
I feel like if you're gonna edit a fight scene, you need to look at what is like the absolute masterclass of editing fight scenes. Resident Evil, the final chapter. Let me tell you.
I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna have to take your word on it.
Everyone, just take my word on it. Every single fight scene of that movie is edited to perfection. You know what I mean? You can see nothing.
It's
nothing.
It's cut a lot to make.
There's a fight.
So
there's a fight in this film that I swear to fuck I was watching a Mortal Kombat cinematic.
Dun 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 dun.
Like it was so well shot. The choreography was incredible.
I don't know which one you're talking
you
about.
You can see
we'll get into it in the
all
spoiler.
the motion as well. You can see everything that lands. It was, and they didn't overstay their welcome. It wasn't like, oh, here now.
No, there weren't super long fights, but every fight that happened, I thought was, a super enjoyable fight.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I think if they were to do a sequel, they better bring back that team, whoever, because that would be the part that they probably lose out on.
And I could see them doing a sequel from this.
Yeah, from the fucking reviews, because most people, when reviewing it, like giving it really high reviews, but most of them came away with the same expectation that you had, Adam, which was I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to, and it's like the number one movie in UK at the moment as well.
Right,
like, this movie is doing really well, so I can see there being a sequel.
Do you know what? It's been a while though since there's been like a fun movie of this nature outside of
superheroes.
The superhero shit, right? Like and within the superhero movies, it just feels really tired, right? But there's been plenty of movies that have kind of tried to capture that same kind of energy and feel, and just failed miserably, or really feel like they're not capturing it at all. This movie, it captures it, but I don't feel like they're necessarily going for that. I just feel like the kind of humor that goes with playing D&D is a similar sense of humor.
Mm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I think it's like a happy accident that you can make those comparisons to Guardians. I don't think it's that the people making this are like, we're trying to make this Guardians.
I think they learned a
You know
lot
what I mean?
from their work working with Marvel, and
Who did?
the directors,
Did they work with Marvel?
they wrote Homecoming.
Is that who this is?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Okay, didn't know that.
they definitely have been. They're in that industry. They would learn a lot from that, and there's definitely certain things here that just don't work.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I said on a majority of this film, it does work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because the things that are trying to be serious are serious. I don't.
Mhm.
There's very few moments that are like with a serious tone that are all of a sudden turned into a joke. Very
Yeah, like
few of
there-
that.
Yeah,
There is a
Yeah,
bit
they-
of heart
they-
to the movie, like.
Yeah.
they know how to
Yeah.
balance those moments, because that's a problem in a lot of movies nowadays, especially within the superhero genre, where you do have this really heartfelt, warming sequence, but then it's like, oh no, they're being too serious. Let's throw in a joke at the end. Haha, let everyone laugh now.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but at least
just
this,
when,
like,
just
they
when we
give it
have people like on the verge of like kind of
tears.
teary eyed, we'll stop that. Like, let's just make sure to laugh instead.
Yeah.
Let's not get too emotional here.
So at least with this, no, they do know how to kind of slightly pull on the heartstrings and let those moments breathe, and then let the
Yeah.
jokes breathe as well. And
Yeah, yeah. Well, any last things you want to say on the movie in a non-spoiler fashion before we break into our spoiler discussion?
No.
no, I think we covered.
Excellent.
Music actually,
So-
no, music was really good. Actually, if that can be counted as non-spoilers, but
Yeah, for the most part.
some moments the music were really good. But yeah,
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I can't really
so
recall the score.
I can't hum a
at
melody
all,
or anything.
Actually.
But
no, but there's one I can recall, but we'll talk about it in the spoiler.
okay,
Sure,
okay. Well, what I would say then is that we recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. It is a good movie. It is a fun watch. Again, none of us are expecting this to be a big Oscar-winning movie. You know,
It's certainly not that.
this isn't Oppenheimer or anything like that. Okay, this is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and it's fucking fun. So
It's a good time.
maybe go check it out, have a good time, and I think if you've played tabletop games before, you will feel that kind of energy of playing with a party type thing. And it's pretty fun. It's like watching someone else's campaign in a visual way. That's pretty awesome. But now we're going to break into the spoiler discussion. So if you've checked out the review, and if that's all you want to hear, and you want to go off now and watch the movie and then come back for the rest of it, you're more than welcome. If you're someone who's already seen the movie and you're like, hey, thank God you've gotten this non-spoiler stuff out of the way. Come on, get into the nitty-gritty. Come on. And then we're about to fucking do that now. Spoilers start in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, where do we want to start?
Well, I want to start with Eric. As someone like I am very much a novice in the like. I mean, yesterday I just figured out what a D4 does. So I'm completely unfamiliar with Dungeons and Dragons. I would say there's a couple of names where I'm like, okay, I know what that is, and you know, there's a couple of creatures there that I'm like, oh, I'm familiar with that, but I'm probably familiar with that from other video games, not necessarily this game.
And thank you, Stranger Things, or I'd have no idea who Vecna is, stuff like that, you know?
So I would say that even if people are not familiar with the game, you're gonna enjoy this. I don't think you don't need to have a master's degree in Dungeons and Dragons to get this movie.
No.
But as someone who is into it, were there like kind of deep cuts? Were there things where you're like, oh, that's so cool that they added that?
Everything the only things I knew was dragon, displacer, gelatinous cube,
Right.
mimic, underdark. Like most of the shit when they mentioned like the villains are from a place called Thay,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to look up like is that a thing in D&D, or do they make
Right,
that up?
right,
Like
right,
what?
right.
I hadn't a clue. Zastam, haven't a clue, but he is a character in D&D. Like actually, honestly, a lot of the shit hadn't a clue. what any of that was.
But
I knew, like,
Neverwinter, you're familiar with,
well,
right?
I know of Neverwinter, and I
Right.
knew of Baldur's Gate, and they start off. The story starts in the Icewind Dales, which is the northern region,
Yeah.
and I
Man,
know of that too.
you are so badass when you're able to like just roll off this fucking crazy shit that I've never heard of. I love
But like
that
in
shit.
terms of
I
the
was-
maps, like, because I mean, when we watch Lord of the Rings or anything related to Middle Earth, like we're so familiar with the geography of it that we're like, we know where we are in terms of situation. Did you feel that way with this, or were you as lost as the rest of us? Why is Neverwinter? Oh yeah, I just answered my question.
Yeah, it's this Neverwinter there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It's
Oh, my joke.
so yeah, it's really far down south. Other than Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate, that's all in the realm of Faerun,
Okay.
which so I knew of that, and I know of the Icewind Dales, and that was about it to kind of the idea of geography. So I even had to look up where Thay was, because I was thinking to myself, maybe Thay is in a plane of existence known as the Shadowfell, which is its own separate world, its own separate realm. But no, it's actually just a country kind of like over yonder, like. So no, and Red Wizards, never heard of them. Not in the clue.
But they are in it though, aren't they? They're they are a
Red,
proper lore thing.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, is the horn part of the lore? Or is that made up for the film?
I think that's part of it. I think I've seen that image before.
So I don't know if that's in lore, because I just know that D&D Beyond, after the movie was released, gave everyone who has signed up to that access to the characters, and those magical items, which include that
Oh,
horn thing.
maybe that's what I saw. I don't know.
So I don't know if that's just a revamped image and
Sure.
design for it, and if it already existed. But yeah, no, I never heard of it. Never heard of that spell.
Yeah.
So while I may know more than you, I would be still very much a novice to D&D.
Oh God, I mean, there's so much that you could dive into, isn't there? And then at the same time, so many people are playing their own
campaigns.
their
Yeah, so
own
it's really hard.
renditions of D&D, like using the D&D rules, but none of the lore, because they can. So there's like I've played a couple of D&D campaigns, and none of them have used any of the lore. So I know So it's like I know nothing about D&D.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting
thing.
thing.
In a sense, I kind of know. So that's like I was able to relate with the movie in the sense of like I know what it's like to play this game.
Yeah.
And I feel like they captured that feeling. But the adventure was a foreign thing to me, to the point where it was like, this is cool. This is just me like watching someone else's adventure, and I'm just along for the ride. I know nothing about the lore here. And at no point are they mentioning anything where I'm like, that's what, such and such as a DM once said, or I knew none of that.
So yeah, Zastam is if you're a huge fan of D&D, I think them mentioning Zastam,
That's a big deal, right?
That's supposed to be a big deal, because he's a little bit
Who's
like
this now?
He was
the
sort of the
Skeletor
shadowy
looking dude?
villain.
He's the Darth Sidious looking chap. So
I was a
I
little.
kind of wish he was going to be in the movie.
Yeah, same. I was that would be one of my big disappointments walking away from that film, is that it's like, where's that dude? Where is he?
That's clearly a holding off for like that's obviously a series villain type then, right? So he must be a big deal.
He would be relatively not as powerful, but kind of on the same plane as Vecna.
I wonder, did they not want to use Vecna specifically? Like, are they similar? So. And then is it a case of like, we can't use Vecna?
Well,
am I right in
saying that stand as his own? You know what I mean?
Am I right in saying that Vecna is not released yet in the current edition?
Or I have access. I have access
to them. Okay.
Because they released them after Stranger Things.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't really know though if he's in any of the books. Then I don't know if that's just like a bonus thing. Here's Vecna and all the stats.
Right.
But yeah, though they're both similar in that they were both human wizards who then became liches, that then became arch-liches, but then Vecna went one step further and essentially became a god.
All right, so like in the hierarchy, like Vecna is ultimately stronger, but this dude is
like, Darth Sidious because he did take over Thay. Okay. So that is
because I have to say one of my favorite and this is one of the like more visually strong parts of the movie I thought was like when it showed the sequence where he did take over everyone and the red smoke comes down and all that. I thought that was fucking badass. Like I thought that looked great.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's cool when you see, like, I feel like dark shit in fantasy is always darker when you've experienced a lot of light. Right? You get it with Lord of the Rings, for example. You spend so long in the Shire. It's such a happy, cheery place that when shit hits the fan, it's like, fuck, this movie took a turn, you know? Same like the Dark Crystal, you know, the Gelflings are so cute and they play their flutes and there's forests and beautiful animals and giant rabbits, and then all of a sudden there's Skeksis sucking the essence out of innocent creatures and you're like, fuck, this fucking movie took a turn. So I always find that, so same with this, like this was like a fun, you know, rompy kind of movie, lots of laughs and humor, and then there was this image all of a sudden I was like, fuck, that's kind of fucking dark for what we've been watching so far, but I thought it was cool. I want to see more of that.
Yeah, it looked great, and I loved the effects on the magic, right? The way they like stopped all the people from running away and stuff. The visual effects there were really, really well done, and it just goes to show really that when you start using a lot of practical effects, that you have the time and the resources to really nail the visual effects. I didn't really notice any CGI. Maybe there was a couple, but nothing that really stood out as, oh, that's Black Panther bad, you know?
No,
well,
I guess I
think
think the stone dragon, like towards the end, I was like, that's not great. Like it's okay. All the CGI is passable, but I think there's moments where I'm like, okay, that's not great.
Yeah, I think there's like
You
a
know?
few moments again. You know, there's that kind of montage sequence of Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. They're riding down to Neverwinter, or they're riding back to his house. They've just escaped the Icewind Dales. They're riding, and there's this shot where they're riding past like a volcano, and you can so clearly tell that that's kind of like superimposed, or they're superimposed.
I thought that looked pretty good actually. I was pretty impressed by that.
No, it did look good, but you can still somewhat tell that it looked. Or the most obvious one is, and thank God we're doing spoilers because I could bring this guy up because I thought this was hilarious.
That did look bad.
Bradley Cooper, that was bad. Like
that was serious Darby O'Gill vibes.
Yeah, that was not
like
great.
if Darby O'Gill was made today. You know what I mean? Like that's
that was hilarious.
That was so strange.
I could have done
kind of interesting, but
I could have done without that scene.
I don't think that scene was necessary.
No,
I think we fully got that. Like you got even before they got there that she had a partner who has moved on.
Yeah,
or said about it already.
Even if she was about to go in and she saw him with her. And they were happy together and just left.
Yeah.
Like, I think you get the whole thing.
Says a lot.
Having that conversation was just, it slowed the pace of it. It was an unnecessary additional resource in terms of casting. Like, it was.
It's so unnecessary, right?
It was
like
very unnecessary.
And I like Bradley Cooper. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, but very strange.
I think if considering they were leaving, you can tell that they were leaving some stuff for sequels. I think people's stories could have been left. So I feel like that could have been left. Because again,
how do you guys feel about how the party came together?
Like at the very end, you mean?
No, in the beginning.
Oh, right.
How they actually came together? Because that's one of my. I was enjoying the movie. I much prefer the second half of the movie to the first half of the movie.
Yeah, the first half, I'm like, oh, this is...
the start is bad. The start's real bad.
Yeah, even the title, Dungeons and Dragons, it's just like, oh my God.
But I'm like, right, you're in a prison, right? This is perfect. This is how D&D campaigns start. Why is the entire party
You're
not in
the person from my dreams.
Yeah, but why is the entire party not in the prison? For different reasons. But they're going to break out together and they get to know each other over the course of the adventure. I kind of didn't like the whole, I know a guy, I know someone. And then they just go find the person. There's a bit with that person. Like, I think like my least favorite sequence in the whole movie was when they get Simon and he's robbing people in his magic show. And then there's this awkward people flipping upside down sequence, and then he goes up in the sky, and that's some really shoddy CGI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
where I'm like,
not
that's fucking rough. That whole sequence, I was like, this
I
is so
don't quite
unnecessary.
understand why Simon joins them. Actually, I might need to see it again to get that, but I don't really know what his motivation is to join them.
I think it's so
Money,
that he doesn't
right?
have to. Yeah, he doesn't have to sleep in a ditch.
It's just money, okay?
Yeah.
Because I
think
felt
it's just money.
uh,
He was my least favorite character.
yeah. Well, actually, I liked his. I don't quite understand why the actor decided to put on a British accent.
Yeah, you see, I like that actor, right?
Yeah.
He's in
Pokemon.
yeah, but he's also, and he's great in it. He was
Yeah.
so good in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
That movie has no right being. That has no right being as fun as it is.
Yeah,
Detective
yeah,
Pikachu
it's
is
funny.
stupid fun, but he's also in The Quarry,
All right. Okay.
and he's a really interesting character in The Quarry, and he's really likable in it. But in this I don't know. Maybe he's miscast. I don't know. I feel like Simon on paper is a more interesting character than what's executed in the movie.
Yeah, he's the only one I think where the comedy doesn't land.
Yeah.
Like I like his arc, and I like
Well, the whole thing of like
when
the
they
sorcerer who doesn't believe in himself and has to kind of overcome his own
and then
self doubts and shit.
the way it
makes
all
sense.
kind of comes together at the end is really good. But yeah, there's just something about, I don't know whether it's him putting on the accent, which is totally unnecessary considering they have such a, maybe they felt like there wasn't enough British in the party, but
right.
I don't know.
Because I mean, the rest of them are American.
Yeah, but it's
Right?
like, why not just
Or whatever.
keep it that way? Is it, what's the name of the, Doric? Is that her name?
Doric is the tiefling. Yeah.
Right.
She was my favorite.
I thought her motivation to join was good.
Yes.
Like that's a strong motivation to join.
But I thought it was also very quick.
Yes, it was.
I kind of thought they did try slam too much into this and sort of like passing comment. She doesn't trust humans because they abandoned her. That's her whole story. It was the one thing I kind of didn't want was them to try explain everyone's backstory.
But you kind of have to if it's D&D, right?
But that's why I feel like if they had all started in the prison, right? So from pretty much the very start, they're kind of together. Maybe they were sharing a cell or whatever, or they just found, or Chris Pine's character felt there's a real opportunity to use these guys to get out, or whatever, right? And through the course of the adventure, they get to know each other and they learn each other's backstories. Because that's what happens when you play D&D. It's not actually a case of, okay, so for outside the part, like outside the game, yes, it is I know a guy who might want to play.
Yes.
Right? Which is kind of what they did there. But in the context of the story, that felt more like, and I get it, they're doing a heist. That felt more like an Ocean's 11, I know a guy who can get us in here.
Yeah.
And then they go get him, and he's doing something, and they're like, yep, that's the
guy. But she's the only additional, though.
But Simon knew her.
Yeah, Simon knew her.
You know what I mean? So they knew Simon. Simon's like, I know someone. Then they hear about the paladin guy, and they're like, yeah, no, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have preferred if they were in a situation where they were stuck together. They never would have met each other otherwise, maybe. And then
I think maybe if Simon
party, trip.
I think if Simon was with them initially, I just think I liked seeing the kind of area Doric's from. I thought that was cool, and actually
that was cool.
I thought the introduction of Doric wasn't great.
Oh, the owl bear thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool that she was where she emerged from. I thought was cool. The thing I didn't like about it was, and this is kind of like typical. It's like they're like, "Oh, is that dark?" It's like, "That's not dark. That's dark." And he says it just before she, from a distance, transforms. It's like, how did he fucking know she was just about to do that? Like, it's such a. Yeah. This is just a movie thing to make people go, ha ha, But I did like that she emerged as the horse under the guy. I thought that was kind of cool. That was her disguise in that moment. And then, owlbear thing, bit strange. Maybe it's a D&D creature ability. I don't know. I have no idea.
Actually, fun. No,
it's pretty cool.
Druids are actually not able to turn into owlbears. That is just an addition for that movie.
That's why they made that animation. Right? Do you remember? Is it the little the official
yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons animation thing?
And they're like,
Where it's like, and the guy Eric, he's like, but the druids can't do that. It's like, I make the rules, so shut up, Eric.
Yeah. Those characters are based on a animated show of Dungeons and Dragons.
from the
Is that right?
70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're based on
They're
them,
in the movie.
and then they're in the movie. They actually have another.
That's from the movie.
And then they have another clip of them being all like, "Wait a minute, how are they in the movie?" And they're all giving out about how they look, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think one of the kids is like, "I don't know, I like how I look." It's like, dude, you're 9 years old. That guy's like 40. You should be the most pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the self-awareness of.
Yeah, no, it is fun. There's a good sense of humor in a movie. Like I one scene that I thought was particularly funny was when they got to like, now they kind of overdo the joke a little bit, but when they get to the graveyard,
Oh yeah.
and the first corpse that they have to ask the 5 questions to, and even things like, only answer me when I ask you a question, okay? Okay. And then they go, why did you put a question mark at the end of that? I didn't. I thought that bit was really funny.
Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about, where that feels so like at the party unintentionally messing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And having to keep going, like.
Yeah.
And that
get
moment,
the wrong body.
I think that moment is very Princess Bride, possibly Monty Python in a little way. Like that's it's like that was sketch straight out of them, kind of.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But the my favorite character is your man from Bridgerton. Don't know his name, but him.
The paladin character.
Yes.
What was his name in it? Is it Thane or something? Or no, he is a Thane. Is that what it is?
He's a Thay, but his name is Zenk Yendar.
Zank.
Well, Zank or Zank. Sorry.
Zenk. Xenc.
Zank.
Right. So there's multiple reasons why I love this character. First of all, I think he played it really well. He is actually badass in his fight sequence and whatnot. He's funny, but not in a way that's like, oh, another jokester. In that kind of Drax way, but less stupid and more just, I take everything I do very seriously.
Yeah.
You know. And then he operated like he's either a character that the DM is controlling in order to push the story on,
Yeah.
and keep the characters going. Like, so he's not one of the party members; he's an NPC. Like, he's I need to get, and also this fight's too tough for you, so I'm gonna have my NPC do the fight because you aren't leveled up enough for this fight, to be honest with you. And also, yeah, just like or in a video game sense, yeah, like an NPC, a companion you can't control. You know, I'm thinking, man, Final Fantasy 15 when Core is with you. You know what I mean? You know that guy? Is his name Core or Cole or something like that? Do you remember the guy who was like Matthew Mercer did his voice?
Oh yeah.
And you can't control him, and he's way more badass than your party. Yeah. That's this guy. And I thought it was gas. And then one of the things that made me laugh the most was when they were watching him walk away. And even at that, it felt like an NPC because he just had the animation and he kept walking. And Chris Pine was like, "Do you think he's gonna go around that rock?" Or, "Oh no, he's gonna go over it." He just kept going straight, as if he was like programmed. Like, he's not a person at all.
Yeah.
I thought they aced that.
And he just and they turn and a conversation continues. But if you keep looking at him, he's still going straight.
Yeah.
But his that fight sequence is so cool. Like, that's the one where when I watched that, I was like, that's your man's like Quan Chi nearly with the blue blade and everything. Like, it's so, that's a Mortal Kombat fight.
Yeah.
And even the finisher was like,
bit of a fatality.
Yeah, it was so fucking
fatality.
Cool.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about that fight was actually seeing, and I know that he said, "I'll take care of these guys," but if you happen to look away from the awesome choreography and look in the distance, the 4 are just standing there watching the whole time.
Yeah.
And to me, it's incredibly unnatural. I feel like they should be even like leaving.
Oh, the party,
you know, looking. Yeah, the party are just standing there. And
I was just gonna watch this cutscene.
Yeah, it's like watching a cutscene, right? But that's a nitpick because you're really focused on the fight.
I have another nitpick with that. As awesome as that fight is, right?
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, jeez, I'm glad he's on our side." And then he's like, "Well, you gotta move." He's like, "Why? They're all dead." No, they're gonna get back up. It's like, "They're gonna get back up. Why'd you fight them in the first place? You're just gonna have to run anyway."
Because it was cool.
Well, I guess yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
slow
it's a
them
cool
down,
fight
I
scene, yeah.
guess, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
But yeah, that was a great fight scene.
Yeah,
Someone described it
so
as
good.
their favorite lightsaber fight in years.
Yeah, it did. It kind of looked like the Old Republic cut, like kind of animations that they do, and
He's fucking throwing the sword blade into a chap and then still having the dagger to just start slicing people. I was like, that is an awesome weapon. That is such a cool weapon.
No, he was awesome. I really liked him. I also liked was it the hither tither staff or whatever they called it? Like,
oh, the portal gun.
Yeah, the portal gun. Like,
They
we
actually
literally went,
used the sound
portal.
effect. They used the sound effect from Portal, I think.
Yeah. The way it was utilized in the throughout, I thought was great, especially when
They
they
did
were
the
going to do
heist.
the heist with it.
Yeah, that
and
was very good.
I kind of wish it just worked because I thought it was so good. That felt like a moment where it's like, now roll to see do you get in. Oh,
Yeah.
you got a 1. Yeah, it's on the ground. That's why you can't get in. Like that's what that felt like. But I kind of wish, because the helmet thing wasn't working, I thought, oh, this is a really clever alternative. Utilize. It's like, well, what can we do instead? Or what if we like just the way they did that?
Yeah.
I thought was
That was-
really
I
clever.
really
was
loved
genius.
the transition of Dork getting from the portal into the cart. It was such
very
a
very
sweet
good. Very good.
transition, and like her ability is just so useful. Like she
That
brought
was
a lot
sequence
to
with the
that
music
party.
was really cool.
The
was
music-
when
music
she
was really good.
Yeah, it was good there. Yeah.
when she was turning into different animals to escape as they were hunting her. And
Oh
it was
dear.
following her different transitions but I thought that was great.
And it was done in one shot. I was like, I know obviously most of it's CGI, so
Sure.
it doesn't, it doesn't count as being as impressive, but I think it was still impressive because they still had to use some live action people and some kind of live sets before going to the CGI, and just being able to follow the whole thing, I think was
Yeah.
great.
No, it was.
Very
I thought that sequence was shot really well, and the strings kept the tension moving. You know,
Mm.
It had an element of fun and danger at the same time. I
Yeah.
thought it was balanced quite well. I also really liked, the first fight scene where Michelle Rodriguez's character Holga
Mm-hmm.
uses a brick.
Yeah.
I thought it was fucking awesome. I thought that entire choreography was great.
Yeah. Very
One of my
good.
favorite things about that is there's no music. There's
Yeah,
just-
that
just
stands
hearing
out.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that stands out. Yeah,
That
Yeah.
and then her last fight.
it's also
But it's
really
just
great.
her in the blacksmith, and she's picking up the hammer and the helmet and the shield and putting on everything. And that music, I thought, it's really strange at first, but as it builds up, it gets
There's
really good.
There's a chant in it or something. Isn't
There's
there?
a chant. So the chant is really
and it's
weird,
weird.
at first. The chant is weird at first because when the first time I was watching that movie, I thought to myself, is there a bunch of like goblins or something just in the corner chanting about their rights or something like that? That's what it sounds like at first. But then it's when it gets to Chris Pine sneaking in and the chant slightly changes. And I'm like, oh no, it's part of the music. And I thought it was really good then, and it kind of keeps building. I thought that fight scene was really great.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. What did you guys think of her character overall?
Holga.
Yeah,
I liked it. I liked all the characters overall. Like towards the end.
yeah. You
What
kind of
I-
grow
what-
to like them.
Yeah,
right?
what I like about her is that, or every character, right? Every character has there's a purpose to them being in the party. There's not a single member that is like they can do it all.
Yeah,
And she's clearly the barbarian,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
but there's a soft side to her. There's an element of that she kind of wants to put all that behind and just be a caring person
Mm-hmm.
to whoever needs it. And I thought that was really nice. And I think the way the overall story, I guess the way it ends is really nice. It's a little bit do you get it? but
Yeah.
but
Dungeons and Dragonflies.
it is nice.
Yeah. No, I hear
Yeah.
you. I think in a way, she's sort of symbolic. Well, in a way, she's the heart of the movie, but she's also symbolic of what I felt going into the movie, which is that like I enjoy a lot of movies that Michelle Rodriguez is in, but I don't tend to enjoy Michelle Rodriguez. So seeing her in the cast, I was like, well, I'm not gonna like her in the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised, which is kind of how I felt going into the movie. I was like, I'm not really gonna like this movie. Oh shit, this is pretty good. I thought the barbarian role suited her really well. I actually thought she did really well in it, and yeah, I really liked her character. I thought she was cool. I also do like that the leader is a bard. Maybe this happens more often than not. I don't know. There's been a couple of D&D campaigns I've played where I've been a bard, and I tend to be the one who comes up with the plans.
Oh.
And I'm like, is that a happy accident? Or does that tend to happen that the bard character comes up with plans? Because there's not much else they can do.
There's actually
they can do the charisma rolls and shit.
There's
but,
there's actually a lot bards can do, and they just didn't really utilize.
I mean, in the sense of combat.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of bard can do.
Tell me, Eric. Tell us.
Well, there's bardic inspiration, which is like boosting your allies.
Oh, right. So like buffs for the allies.
Buffs, debuffs for the enemies. They can actually cast spells.
Oh, shit.
So they're actually
spellcasters.
I don't know. He didn't have those. I didn't know why he didn't have them. But yeah, I liked him being the bard, not the warrior, at all.
Yeah, and not like a paladin or something like that. I thought that suited the other, dude who came in and went, "I need to get you back on script."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was the planner, and he was just kind of like he was fumbling his way through. Essentially, it was. Like Nathan Drake would be a mixture between a bard and a rogue would be what Nathan Drake is. So this guy was just the bard side of it, the kind of charismatic guy who says like funny one-liners but gets himself into more trouble than he needs to get into, which I thought was quite good. And that he wasn't like D&D, he wouldn't have gotten to where he was without everyone else. Without without Doric's shape-shifting, without Simon's powers or.
Well, I thought that bit of dialogue was really funny too, which was she's like, why are you here? And he's like, I come up with the plans. And she's like, but you've already come up with the plans, so now what? Well, if the plan fails, I come up with new plans. So you come up with plans to fail. Like, I thought that which back and forth was done really well, which he does, yeah.
And I think that was great.
And she's great. She was great.
Yeah. What I liked about like the end, which is what Eric was alluding to, was the fight sequence and the camera panning around, and it was like this really great shot of everyone trying to take down this red wizard.
That bit was great.
Really well done. But the way they defeat the red wizard is that the plan finally works, and what it was missing was an additional party member who could turn invisible.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. That was a clever use of something that had been set up earlier in the movie that I kind of put no pass on beyond that. Like, it's something that I should have been like, well, that'll come into play later on.
Yeah.
But I guess I had my brain kind of turned off watching the movie or something. Like, I just wasn't paying that much attention to the point where when I have it, I went, oh, that was fucking clever. I should have seen it coming, but that was really clever.
Yeah. And
they reminded us of it before that fight. They said put it on. Go invisible again.
Yeah. So his plan worked. The sorcerer or the wizard or whatever is able to finally do his magic, like to fool the red wizard. Doric is able to use the fucking owlbear ability. Then it's just like it all really just all came together in the end.
And they've leveled up through their XP and stuff.
Yeah. But I liked the villain. I thought was really good in this.
So who are we classing as the villain?
Well,
obviously,
I'm going to say
it's the actual red wizard character, Sofina.
Yeah,
is that her name?
Yeah.
Sofina.
I thought her costume design was great. The makeup was great. The fight sequence was really great. I like that she wasn't jokey.
Yeah,
which is plagues a lot of movies.
Well, she did have one joke moment, but again, like Zenk, it's being dead serious. But it's everyone else reacting. So it's like the GM trying to be like, this is the arcane lock of Mordenkainen. And then just like this long silence for all the other players be like, okay, well, I suppose that's that.
Oh, yeah. With the door? Yeah, that was funny. Door. That was fucking funny. Because Hugh Grant's character was just like, okay. We'll talk about him in a minute. But, yeah, her makeup and everything was sick. Like, she looked great. She looked like a Sith.
Yeah.
kind of character. That's what she.
But
looks
I
like.
was under the impression that there was like more of them. I don't know
Yeah,
why I felt
right?
that way. That it's not just her. There was like a couple of them as advisors for Forge. I definitely missed something there, but
I laughed so hard when she summoned her like henchman assassin dude, and he's on the boat, and he's standing so still
Yeah.
on the boat, but the boat is like rocking, and it's like he's supposed to be real menacing upon approach, but I'm sure it wasn't intention. I think that was supposed to be cool, but that made me laugh. I I thought that was a bit Mortal Kombat. Actually.
yeah. Yeah,
No,
there's probably a bunch of stuff in there that they intended to be like really badass, but actually they ended up being some of the funnier parts.
Yeah, right, yeah. But yes, Hugh Grant's character,
Right.
He's brilliant.
So good.
he is excellent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going in this thinking like first of all, it's like why the fuck is Hugh Grant in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because I mean, first all he did was rom-coms, then he just started doing like Guy Ritchie movies,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's the rogue in Dungeons and Dragons. So when I first saw the promo that he was the rogue, I thought he's part of the team. At first.
right.
Then I
Right.
saw the trailer and went, oh no, he's kind of just the classification of the rogue, but he's sort of like the master from Guardians of the Galaxy, or not Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok.
All right.
Oh,
I thought he was going.
Jeff Goldblum's character.
Jeff Goldblum's character. I thought he was going to be a bit like that. Like he's just for that
Yeah.
one sequence, or he's just for a few.
Yeah,
seconds.
I didn't expect him to be as involved as he is.
He's very
so
prominent,
involved, yeah.
and he's really messed up. He's a really messed up character, and I thought it was great.
I really liked when like he's very funny and he does funny well. I think he's good at it and it alleviates. He's a villain as well, but he's the villain that we were talking about. That he's the funny villain. So that she can be the scary villain for the most part. He's the one that kind of alleviates the kind of tension and stuff with a bit of humor. But he, I thought it was really great when he was saying that, like he took the daughter. He actually kind of liked being her father,
Yeah.
and then didn't want to let her go. And he likes that she believes what he tells her, and she listens to him, and he can mold her into, you know, a kind of person that he wants her to be. Like I thought that was really like fucked up.
Yeah,
When you really think about it. In a
yeah. I was
weird
like,
way.
that's messed up. What a messed up character that is.
Yeah. But in a way that's like it's hard to it's not obviously sinister
Yeah.
in a way, you know? Cuz he did look after her and he took care of her. He didn't have to. Like maybe it would have been more sinister to just leave her out in the wild to die. But it's when like Chris Pine's character comes back that he won't give her back. That's when it starts getting really like, okay, now that's fucked up.
and then
and the lies that he's been feeding.
yeah,
obviously.
he flies to be feeding and wants to send them back to prison so he gets more money.
Yeah.
He's willing to sacrifice the entire city of Neverwinter for money.
Yeah, he's kind of
Well,
like
he's
the master of Lake Town, at least what he should have been like.
Hmm.
You know, in The
Yeah,
Hobbit.
in a way,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or even, well, a funnier version of Walter Frey from Game of Thrones, like.
Or even like no, I'm only joking.
Yeah, he's your man from
naming people. If he was more like
he's your man from Oliver Twist, sure.
yeah. But yeah, he was gas. I kind of feel like though, and the way they end the movie with him again, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see him in a sequel. I feel like that's a joke that could get old fast, and I feel like they've kind of run the course of that character.
Right, as in almost
Like
like
I really enjoyed him in this movie.
if you keep him going, he might become like Loki almost.
I feel like he will.
Or Alfred from The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Or Alfred
You
from
see,
The
I
Hobbit.
feel like he
Yeah.
will probably be in the sequel. But yes, I think there is definitely a risk there.
Yeah.
Is there an element of like, you know, like with the Oceans movies, some of the characters are return, or like the Fast and Furious movie,
Family, man. Family.
those characters tend to return. So maybe it's only like a
Yes.
small sequence.
I feel like he's going to be on the team.
Probably on the team. Like they'll need him,
Yeah, they'll need him for
Yeah.
something.
They'll
but
need him.
It's
Him
reluctant.
and
which
Jonathan.
they could do, but I don't know if they should.
Why was that bird guy called Jonathan?
It's not called Jonathan.
Oh, that's not his name at all.
It's Jarnathan. I hate the fact that they called him Jarnathan because it just sounds like it sounds like Jonathan.
It does sound like Jonathan.
That's what I thought. I thought genuinely his name was Jonathan.
I thought it was Jonathan as well until I looked up.
And then when he showed up, I was like, "That's ridiculous."
I thought it was so funny.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
It's ridiculous. They're not supposed to be that.
I thought it was Jonathan just because that was the name of the director. So I thought it was like a.
I thought it was Jonathan because I just thought they thought that was gas. That they have this pretty cheap looking. And I don't mean, all right, okay. I mean, if I rocked up to a Halloween costume in that thing, that'd be sick. That would be an amazing costume. But in this big budget fucking movie, it felt a bit like the Power Rangers TV show.
Or the Muppets.
And then I thought it was called...
definitely the Muppets. The Muppets.
It reminded me, the whole thing reminded me of the Muppets.
Oh,
and then I thought it was called Jonathan because I thought they were just like, wouldn't it be fucking hilarious if all these other characters have these like fantasy names and the big fucking thing that's clearly from the fantasy genre is just named Jonathan. Like,
I thought the dragon board was done really well. I thought that prosthetic was done really
that's what I meant earlier on with
bad,
the...
yeah.
So yeah, he looked good. Like that's why I was like, the puppetry is uneven. It's all over the place, you know. And
but
later
I felt that was probably on purpose, though.
And the cat that's bored.
The
pulled out of the fish. I was like, come on, like that's borderline a Teddy. Come on, that's fucking hilarious.
That was funny. Like just like he like a prophet coming to save the kitty child.
I find that so funny because he's playing that really seriously.
Yeah, but it's just fucking ridiculous.
Is ridiculous. Like pulling this fucking teddy cat out of a CGI frog or fish or something. Like it's ridiculous.
That was funny.
Yeah,
that was so funny.
Yeah. That's another one of those ones though where I feel like that scene was supposed to be touching. I feel like that's unintentionally funny.
I'm sure they must know how ridiculous that is. Like they must. I would be interested to see like the behind the scenes with this. Like,
I think it'd be fun.
The decision making, for example, like okay, so even if choosing from the lore, what realm they're going to use, what areas they're going to use, why certain creatures, why particularly those creatures, not others, and things like that. Where it's like, well, why did you decide to go full prosthetics? There's definitely a reason as to why they did that with most of the creatures over CGI.
Yes, yeah.
And some of them are clearly designed to look like they're straight out of like Hellboy 2 and not, you know. There's definitely a reason for that.
Sorry, Eric.
But then when you see the dwarf at the end, it's like, well, that's so very clearly taken inspiration from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and he looked great.
Yeah,
he looked like something out of The Hobbit. We were just like on our way in. I was talking about how I was like singing my praises for the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, which I still think is a crying shame it's been cancelled. But like the puppetry work in that, regardless of whether you like the show or not, is just fucking outstanding. Absolutely incredible. And I was like, I'd love to see more of that. So then I suppose very early in the film when I saw this bird, I was like, oh, fuck off. Like, come on. Like, I want to see some Dark Crystal style puppets, like, you know, but that's just me.
It was a cheap laugh, but they did get it out of me, was when they jumped out with Jonathan and then they said they were going to free them anyway. Like, it's a cheap laugh, but they did get me.
It is funny. Yeah. That is a funny gag.
I think it was very clever with the the start of it all, and it's like, I gotta go feel it. We're gonna get out of this. It's like, don't get your hopes up. But Jonathan's going up there. He's gonna be able to get us out, and it's not what you expect because you expect like he's gonna be
yes,
and it's just
I think that's why it worked. Like he's gonna get us out because he can fucking fly.
Fly, bird.
Not because.
But that is.
Not because he knows them.
Yeah.
But I think the reason that worked in this, because like a lot of the jokes, the reason why it worked, I felt, was that in that moment, that sounds like something the players would ask the DM, can they do? And then they go to do it.
You know what? Fuck it, roll. See if you can. Yeah.
But the DM was just was going to let you go.
Yeah. Afterwards, it's like that was hilarious to watch us do. Yeah, I was gonna let you go anyway, but whatever. Like, yeah, totally.
It was totally that.
Just fucking around with them. But then I like then as a result, because they did that, they ruined their pardon and were now wanted.
Yeah, like there's a consequence.
Because they instead of going along with the proper procedure, they assaulted one of the councilmen and broke out of the prison rather than to be actually pardoned. So then there was a bounty on their heads.
It is gas. It is absolutely gas.
It's funny when you think about it, but it's not well executed, I don't think.
Right,
when you're watching it.
It's not laugh out loud hilarious as you're watching it.
No, but when you are...
But the more you think about it, the more you realize, actually, in concept, that is fucking funny.
Yeah.
I do think the film is particularly at the start, because it's really trying to get into the adventure quickly. Yeah. It suffers from like throwing a fuckload of exposition at you. And it's like, oh god, is this how all the storytelling is going to go? Like the whole thing of like Chris Pine sharing his backstory, and like it was like, oh god, this is rough. Like, and then like, and Hugh Grant's character was there, and Justice Smith's character was there, and then we all got caught in the time thing, and I found that I was getting a bit worried.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
Once it finds its own pacing, I think you settle in.
Yeah,
and you go, okay. Now this is enjoyable.
Really, it gets really starts to pick up and get really good at Holga's first fight scene.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
and then for me, it's just superb when Zenk is introduced.
He is so good.
Yeah,
he's so good.
I think even all the back and forth in his library.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
all
the different like comebacks and everything like that. Even when it's like. I think Justice sounds when he says they have to go to the Underdark, he's like, "Oh, that sounds lovely." It's like, "Oh, quite the opposite." It's like, "I know, I was being ironic." And then he says his fucking poetic line.
Irony is a blade that only cuts yourself.
Yeah, and Chris is like, "Really? Is that what you think right now? Is that really what you think?"
Yeah. They're very good together, and the way they deliver the lines is excellent. I also really liked the scene when they were putting the games.
Yeah, there was a bit of a Attack of the Clones kind of vibe with that.
What's that creature called?
I think it's called a Displacer.
Right, that was awesome.
Panther.
Not only,
the Panther.
Its ability is awesome. The CGI on that was actually really good, but the audio design on that thing,
yeah, it was kind of intense, man.
Yeah, it made me jump at one point. You know,
it has 6 legs.
Like, this thing is fucking cool.
I didn't notice that till I think. One of the close-up shots. I think it's when it's the holograms going up to Chris Pine. I was like, oh, that thing's got 6 legs.
Yeah. It looks sick. It also kind of reminds me of like He-Man. You know, I'm thinking of
reminded me.
I thought of Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy VII, the Guard Dogs.
Yeah,
it's so interesting actually. When we came out, you said that it had like a Final Fantasy aesthetic, which I suppose in a way makes sense because D&D is a huge inspiration on Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we would have seen of Final Fantasy is actually like D&D shit. Right?
Yes. But I think it may have gotten to a point where now D&D design-wise is inspired by other things.
They've inspired each other.
Yeah, because I think Final Fantasy has the advantage of being a visual medium, so they have to design more.
Right.
Whereas with D&D, yes, nowadays there's lots of pictures for things, but I don't know if there was ever really that detailed imagery for everything back in the day.
Right. So back in the day, I suppose your point of reference is what is the style of fantasy you're into. Like you're watching Stranger Things, the kids are playing D&D, and they're constantly referencing The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So they seem to be very much like in a Tolkien style fantasy when they're playing. Versus, someone else could be very Final Fantasy inspired, Dark Crystal inspired, Legend of Zelda inspired in terms of like the kind of world they're in or whatever. So it's interesting then when you get a movie trying to depict, and like how many people are going to come out and say that's exactly how I see D&D versus other people in terms of just the aesthetics, not the party feel. I think we all feel like they kind of got a sense of the party right, but what does the world actually look like? That would totally, like, you're going to have different authors think very differently on that.
Yeah, I loved actually the statues outside the Colosseum. I thought they were very cool.
Yeah.
It reminded me of it kind of reminded me of the statues I was about to say the Argonauts. I don't think that's how it's specifically pronounced in Lord of the Rings, but
Yeah, yeah.
when they're sailing and you have those two giant statues, it kind of remind me of that.
I think there was some clear Lord of the Rings inspiration throughout in this. Like there's a shot where they come over the hill and to see the city, and even the way the city is layered. It's like, well, that's Minas Tirith inspired. Clearly, it's not as gorgeous as Minas Tirith, but it's Minas Tirith inspired. And then there's shots of like certain trees and things like that where I'm like, well, that's very Shire-esque. And right now the composer is using flutes, so they're thinking the Shire right about now. You know, it's not that it looks like Lord of the Rings. It doesn't, but throughout there's some DNA there. I think that's Tolkien-esque. Or at least what we now see is Tolkien-esque. You know, yeah. John Howe-esque maybe more so, or something like that. What would you guys like to see from a sequel? I'm wondering, like, would you like to see these same characters go on a new adventure with maybe new party members added? Or, like, would it be more true to a D&D thing to do a whole new party and a whole new adventure? Kind of difficult, I think.
I think I would like to see the same characters, purely because what made this film work, I think, is the combination of Chris Pine and Hugh Grant and the various different cast members they have. I think it's them with the script that really worked. This actually could have fallen apart as a film if Chris Pine wasn't in this movie, actually.
Yeah,
he's very charming, isn't he?
He's really good.
I think he actually got a back injury making this movie. Oh. Just from fucking carrying it, you know?
Nice.
I did not see that coming, but that was well done, actually.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
No,
his
I think
perception level was low.
I think same characters, because this one was very much Chris Pine's story. So I think the next one,
opportunity for someone else.
They kept hinting at Holga's tribe. And they kept hinting at like her ancestors and all this stuff. So I think you can kind of do Holga's story and start introducing Holga's tribe, and start.
You can definitely delve into more, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where they probably should have put in Brad Cooper's character.
Right,
is more in her story, because this was, even though it was bringing everyone together and they were given essence of their backstories, this was very much Chris Pine's story. So we've resolved that, and now we can give way for Holga's story, or Simon's, or Doric's.
I want Doric's story.
I think Doric's story would be very interesting because you get so little of it. And then you can introduce characters, because you need
definitely
the ranger or the fighter or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you could obviously equally do a whole new party, a different Dungeons and Dragons adventure, whatever. But I think the like watching this and getting that party feel kind of felt similar to like the experience of if you listen to a D&D podcast, or if you watch maybe a D&D stream of other people playing it, and you feel like you're getting their in-jokes and stuff like that. And then you want to see what they do next. So I don't feel like their campaign is over. I feel like this was act 1 of a very large campaign. I feel like the villain is still out there. I feel like there's more that they could do. So I do want to see, which I think they will make a sequel. I think this is doing well enough. I want to see this party and what happens next on their next adventure. What other fuck-ups did they do? What other situations did they get themselves in? What other creatures did they find? And yes, who gets added to the party? Because I think ultimately you're gonna have to add a character or two. The party has to expand, and then maybe lose people along the way too. You know, who you've grown attached to over time.
I think they need to be very careful though with this sequel. If they, know, when they do eventually get around to it, is understand what worked with this, why this worked. There is there is a fear that they will just now treat it like a comedy and go fully down that road.
You could go overboard.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Whereas they struck a fine balance here, I think.
Yeah, and they just need to do that again, will you? I also wonder, and he was like one of our favorite characters, and I think he's one of the favorite characters for a lot of people. But should Zank isn't actually on the party? Should he? Is it Zank? I'm not sure.
Zank.
Zank. Should he be in the sequel? or do they need to move on from that character?
No, I think include him, but again, maybe he just doesn't.
He should never join the party.
Yeah,
right?
maybe he's one of these guys who just pops up and goes again. You're like, oh fuck's sake! I really wish you would stick with us.
Yeah. I think the best way to do it now for the sequel is he's not in it for the whole thing. They're fighting some big enemy, maybe a beholder or something like that at the end. They're getting their ass kicked, and then just badass music, slow-mo, Zenk walking in all cool, drawing a sword. And it's like, where the fuck did he come from? And he just kicks ass.
But he does have Forge now, isn't it? Like, I can kind of see...
Well, he brought him to jail, remember?
Oh, he brought him to jail. Oh, sorry, yes, so it ends with him in prison. Right,
because he then jumped with Jonathan out the fucking window again.
Now you know the sequel is going to be a prison break. They're going
we need to go in and break Forge out because we need information from him, or he has something.
There's something, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happening. And what if it was something like that? And Zenk, what if he is trying to stop them?
Ooh,
because he's a paladin, right? It's not that they're enemies, and it's not that he's the villain or anything, but it's just that what you're doing is wrong.
I feel like that's something...
I could see that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Because that's a runaway moment.
He'd fuck all of them up.
He'd
fuck them
kick
all up.
their ass, and they'd be like, fuck, we're fucked if we actually have to fight him. You know? And they wouldn't want to kill him. They're not actually like...
It'll be a bit like in No Time to Die, isn't it? When Bond and... what's her name in it?
Paloma?
Not Paloma. 007.
Well, yeah, okay, 007.
Are after the Russian guy.
Oh, yeah, and they're kind of trying to outdo each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Like, they're both trying to get to the target first, but one is trying to break him out, and one is trying to make sure he doesn't break out.
Yeah.
That could work. And it could be both comedic and exciting, and you know what I mean?
And you could see that it was them going to Zenk to try and get... like, ask for help to get him out. But because it's like he'd be so loyal and he just wouldn't do that if they hadn't gone to him...
He now turns against them.
He wouldn't be the one that's now trying to stop them.
And they're like, oh, fuck, like, why did we... you know, because that is, like, the D&D thing. That is like, we thought this was a good idea. We fucked it up. Now it's worse than if... You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Yeah. Guys, let us know. What would you love to see for the sequel? How could they incorporate the characters? Where would you love to see the series go next? If you've seen it, if you're on YouTube, jump down in the comments. Let us know. If you're listening to us on audio platforms, touch base with social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take to give your take on what you thought of Dungeons & Dragons in spoiler detail, and also what you'd like to see for what I think would be an inevitable sequel. Just before we finish up, I would love to ask, are there any other tabletop games that you think would make great movies? And we don't need to go well in depth into this, but just as a finishing thought here, you know, we've talked about loads of video games that make great movies, but are there other tabletop games that would make great movies, and not necessarily even in this style?
They should do Alien. I've never seen an Alien movie, you know.
I was waiting for
Resident Evil 2. No, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, okay. So it has to be that its origins is a tabletop game, really.
Its origins is a tabletop game. Let me see.
Okay, there really is only one popping into my head.
Pathfinder.
Well, there's the obvious one, right? Surely.
The Pathfinder actually wasn't the one that popped in my head. What's the obvious one, Chris?
I think the obvious one is Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Warhammer 40k.
100%.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you meant like tabletop RPGs.
No, just tabletop games. Any kind of tabletop games you think? I mean, that one's the obvious one. Right?
Yeah,
it's got to be a movie.
Tough movie. It would make one hell of a series, though.
Do you know what? There's talks of making it a series, and I disagree. Fuck. I think it's the wrong way around. I think make a badass, big budget, motherfucking movie trilogy where you're so focused on this is clearly about the Space Marines and the Chaos fucking conflict. And then if it does so well, do your show afterwards. Do your spin-off show where you could follow the Tau and the Necrons and the Orcs and the Tyranids and the, you know what I mean? Then you can do all that shit, because I feel like if you do a big badass fucking movie that's like an R-rated Star Wars epic, it could appeal to a lot of people both outside and inside the game. I feel like if you do a show, it'll immediately basically just appeal to the people who play the game.
I think the other way around.
Wow! Okay, why?
I think if you do a movie, you run the risk of, because the way movie success works is basically on that opening weekend. That's it.
Yeah.
Whatever you make in that opening weekend, and I think it's a very high risk for something like Warhammer, especially within the confines of a movie. There's so much shit in there that I don't think you can do it in a film. There's so much.
I hear what you're saying. I feel like people would feel the same way about Dungeons and Dragons.
No, because there isn't really a, like we see.
It's lore though, right? It's all lore. Like Warhammer 40k, it's all lore. You don't have to include everything. You need to like focus in on what would make a great story.
I think you with D&D, like we just saw it there, right? And I'm, they even said about the fact that the owl bear, like the druid can't turn into an owl bear, right? That's a thing,
That's
right?
them just having fun.
However, there is the whole yoke of like, well, if the DM allows it, the DM allows it.
Yes.
You don't have that flexibility with Warhammer, unfortunately. And you run the huge. There's a bigger, let's say, gatekeeping community. It's a bit like, when you do something in the like what Rings of Power is doing with Tolkien stuff.
Sure.
I mean, the Tolkien fans are outraged. They can't fucking believe it.
I have no doubt
that's
no
way
what
bigger
you
in
this,
40k.
You are gonna piss off the 40k players anyway.
I think I think
no doubt you're gonna piss them off. They're gonna gatekeep the shit out of this, no matter what medium it's in.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's safer as a show.
I don't think as
think,
much. I don't think they will. I like that this is supposed to be a really small conversation. Now it hasn't turned into that.
Yes.
Get ready for the longest episode we've ever done. Another hour.
Add it on. Oh,
I think it's because Henry Cavill is helming it.
Yeah, right. And I think it's going to be like an Amazon show, maybe.
And it's Amazon show, and Amazon tends to do good. Rings of Power obviously piss people off, but if Rings of Power wasn't Rings of Power, if it wasn't Tolkien, that would actually be a really good fantasy show. Like, they do actually make really good, high quality shows.
Well, it is a quality show, right, in terms of budget and.
So with Henry Cavill, who is massive Warhammer 40k fan, he has built up a huge fan base. Whether you're a Warhammer 40k fan, you could be a Henry Cavill fan, just by the fact that he will always stay so true to the lore.
As we've learned,
to the point that he'll get kicked off.
Yeah, he'll get fired for being such a.
Would you do it as a show or as a movie, Eric? Out of curiosity.
I think it could be either. You could do either, because
which would you do? That's what I'm asking you. Of course, it could be either.
I suppose it depends on the story you decide to tell.
Yeah, it's the story. If I was doing a Horus Heresy movie trilogy.
Really?
Right. Yeah, see, I'm with you on that.
If a Horus Heresy, I know there's so much to the Horus Heresy.
It's not even done yet. There's like 64 books. Like, how can you
I know, but it's with the
you gotta hone in, right?
The Horus Heresy.
Where?
you're with the Horus Heresy, you have your factions, you have your loyalists, and you have your traitors.
Right.
40k, everyone's the main character. So that's why I feel like that's way better as a TV show, because it can give every faction and every character their breath. But with the Horus Heresy, maybe not 3 movies, it's a lot. Just do like a cinematic, the Warhammer 40 or the Horus Heresy cinematic universe.
I mean, it like with Horus Heresy, you've got enough. If you're going to do movies, you would need to be looking at the Marvel MCU scale.
No,
you would have to.
No.
It's too big. It's way too big.
I would leave so much out.
Yeah. That's the part that would piss people off.
Right. I would be like looking at X-Men, right?
Right.
I'd be looking at X-Men, And I'd be going, there's so much lore here, there's so many characters, everyone could be a main character. You know, realistically, if you're going to adapt X-Men, you got to make like a TV show, right? You got to get, yeah, and fuck that. I'm doing Wolverine. I'm sorry, Cyclops fans. I'm pissing you off, and I know I am, but I've got a really good story here if I just hone in on Wolverine, you know? That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I'm kind of like, you just got to hone in on something.
Okay, all right. Who's your Wolverine?
No, look, I don't know. I'm just saying
it's just there's just too much. There's let's say if it was just Sons of Horus and Blood Angels, right? If that was it, if that was all there was to it,
right? Fair
enough, but it isn't. There's too many chess pieces at play in the Horus. Horus himself is not even like the first to turn, for example.
Yeah.
There's too much to cover before he becomes the baddie.
Right, okay.
But is that not all just like... Is that not all the 2,000 years of the ring is missing?
Yeah,
you know, that was Sauron 2,000 years ago. Like, it's just a backstory. You don't actually need to see all that unfold.
Yeah, I would start with a horse falling. That's where I kind of.
But there's so much of him being like the thing is about him falling. What's important on that? I can't believe we're getting onto this. This is another like another episode. But anyway, the importance of this.
Star Wars.
The importance of this is, you see, that's like saying that with episode 1 of Star Wars, we start with Anakin falling. You have to build it up. Like his,
I understand. Yeah, I got that.
With the heresy.
So could you do could you do 6 movies?
It would have to be a saga or some form of long-term cinematic universe. It would have to be, because there's too much at play before all of that happens, and then leading up to the actual fall of Terra. There's just way too much to cover.
Any Warhammer 40k fans out there, let us know. What do you think? What do you think? How could this be done? And also, anyway, no matter what you do, they're going to go, yeah, but the game is better. You know, no matter what they adapted, the game is better.
The graphics are better in reality.
The graphics are better when I'm painting them. Okay, any other tabletop games you think should be adapted into a movie? And we won't go into like how much we want it done, but just or what medium, how many episodes per season it should be. But any other tabletop games you think would make for a good movie?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I think most others are just movies.
Is it a tabletop game when it's a card game? Like, would Magic the Gathering make for an interesting movie, or is that just?
I don't know how they would do it.
See, that's just Dungeons and Dragons, though, isn't it? Magic the Gathering.
Right. Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, you're a planewalker, and you have all these like cards at your disposal to do battle with. I don't know how they translate that into a film.
Could it adapt well into a video game?
Well, you mean just a virtual card game?
No. Where you actually physically interact with those creatures. I always thought the artwork to Magic the Gathering was so fucking cool.
It is cool, but it's kind of in there in D&D, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let us know if there's a tabletop that we don't know about, and it's like not Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, that you think would make for a great movie, that there's great lore out there that we know nothing about. You know, let us know. You're like, I've been dying for a movie for this fucking thing, you know, that me and my friends play all the time or whatever. Let us know. I'd love to hear about it. If you're watching YouTube again, jump down in the comments, share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this discussion, why not give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell. Someday we're going to have to like map out the Warhammer 40k movie trilogy. Shut up. I'm only joking. And to those of you who listen on audio platforms, I'm pissing off every Warhammer 40k fan. You can touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take Again to give your take on Dungeons & Dragons tabletop games. Thank you very much, everybody, for checking us out. We're back to talk to you guys next time.
Bye-bye. Bye.